Hi guys, a warm welcome to the channel. As you can see in the title, and most probably if you have clicked on the video itself, the thought might have crossed your mind to buy a Chinese part. You know, a lot of us, I don't think it's in everybody's budget to go and acquire the best of parts out there, and therefore we tend to look for cheaper alternatives. But are these cheaper alternatives actually good enough? Today I'm going to show you a couple of stuff that I've bought for a customer and take you through the pros and the cons. Some of the stuff I have installed before, the other stuff are brand new, but I'll give you my honest opinion of how it is. So sit back and enjoy the video. So 50 horsepower, if we talk 50 horsepower on the crank, 50 horsepower can be numerous things. It can be your tuner telling you that your car made in essence an extra 50 horses, and it might just be a spike in 50 horses in the graph. So meaning the graph will just spike at 50 and continue the same, and you'll be over the moon. What I have in front of me is products that I have brought in or I have imported from China, and these products are what we're going to be unboxing today. And I think for me it's always such a satisfying experience to unbox and open up new products. So firstly we have, so the car in question is it's for a BMW, either E82, E90, E92, 335 or 135. These are the downpipes that I've bought, and from the outset of it, it looks like the welds are very consistent. You know, it seems to be either a robotic weld or some sort of formalized type of welding. Yeah, this is pretty good. It looks like they use mineral bends as well as some straight tubing on it as well, and the oxygen sensor bang that's sitting here is actually quite nice, because if you can look on the inside there, it's not too deep, neither is it too shallow. So from a heat perspective, from the oxygen sensor side, I think these sensors are actually quite cool. Same will apply from the top sensor. The little that I do know about welding is that when welding stainless steel, you gotta purge. Yeah, so what I do know from welding stainless steel is that you got to purge the material. So what that actually means is they block off one end and they block off the other end of the material itself, then run a line from their welding machine into the actual pipe itself, and I think they pump argon or something on the inside. But basically that is so that you can get a weld both. Basically you can get a weld from the outside as well as get a penetrating weld on the inside without the sugary substance or that's sitting on there. So if you look on the inside of here, you'll actually see you can actually see that there's hardly any sugary substance on the inside. So this tells me this pipe, when it was welded, it was actually purged properly. The flange looks to be CO2 made, and other than that, it looks like pretty good quality in terms of how the product is actually designed. I have fitted these particular downpipes to 135s and 335s, and what I did notice is that the spacing is a little bit limited in terms of how it is. This is a true, I think it's a 63 millimeter downpipe. This is a true 63 millimeter downpipe. So with that being said, the space is tight. On the 135s it's even more tight, because the space between the downpipe and the fender is quite tight. So yeah, that's one of the drawbacks. It takes a little bit more time to install these than but for the price itself, it's well worth it. I think the build quality is extremely well built. I can't tell whether the stainless steel is 304 or 318 or whatever grades you get, but it looks to be solid, and for the price I think you can't complain. The next upgrade that we have is these inlets. So the inlet is basically replacing the stock plastic tube from the turbo to the air induction of the car. So like on the 135s and the 335s, it's actually a plastic air box, and the piping leading to the turbo is actually a plastic pipe. I do have an example of it, and yeah, let me just get it here. Yeah, so this is the stock pipe. So why they replaced this pipe is because you can see here, you can see how narrow this width is and how squashed everything is along the tube itself. This is actually the front of the N54. The back is quite similar. But it's even extremely more squashed at the back. So yeah, you can go about and work out the volume of this here. Take the height, take the width, and take the breadth, multiply it by itself. You'll get a cubic centimeters, and that can be the volume, I assume. But all you maths guys out there, you guys can figure that out for yourselves. So what we replace it with is, we replace it with this silicone intake. Yeah. So if you look at the silicone intake, there's hardly any reduction in terms of squashing, in terms of bending, you know, things like that. The flow seems to be very well. It looks to be like this here is actually a 5-ply silicone hose. I don't know if it has the wiring reinforcements on the inside, but yeah, that's it. So it comes like this here. This I assume would be the rear inlet, and how I can tell it's the rear inlet is that it has a place for, I think it's there's a sensor that plugs in here, and this is for your diverter valves. But the nice thing about these particular inlets is that should you not have diverter valves on your car and you have a blow-off valve on your car, they come with fittings, and yeah, let's open up the fittings here. Give or take. And yeah, these are the fittings that it comes with. So you can just pop the fitting on the inside like this. It's actually quite tight, and then your diverter valve can sit on top, or you can block it off. It just depends on what the application you need to put it onto. And the kit comes with a few aftermarket sort of clamps and a whole lot of block offs and things like that there. Yeah, so all in all, it's a pretty nifty modification to do to your BMW, as what it allows you to do is it allows you to change the factory components that weren't really thought of. It was like almost an afterthought in putting that type of intake system in the car. So yeah, so that's the intake system. The front is here as well. So between the downpipes and the inlet pipes, I would assume the downpipes would give you approximately 30 horses. The intake system would give you another, I think around about another 20 horses or something like that there. I think the inlet system is more to allow the turbo to breathe well, to make it more efficient. It will bring about horsepower, but not substantial horsepower. And also in terms of the downpipe itself, just putting a downpipe on with cat fullers, that's not really going to give you the benefit out of it. You really got to get a proper tuner out there who can give you a tune that will be able to cater for the additional modifications that you're putting onto the car. The other modification that we have is a charge pipe. So this replaces the plastic OE pipe. So the plastic OE pipes has a tendency to break at the wells here. So if you imagine this to be plastic, it normally tears along this particular area. This particular charge pipe was pretty cheap, but you can also see why is it cheap. The aluminium used doesn't look to be the best of aluminium. But yeah, it will serve its function. One snag about this here is that the blow-off valve that came with this application. So this is the blow-off valve for this particular charge pipe, and right off the bat you can tell that this is a fake TL blow-off valve. I actually have a genuine blow-off valve. When it comes to components like blow-off valves, wastegates, things like that, I would honestly recommend that you buy the genuine stuff, because these are such critical and important components of a turbocharged system. And if you're looking for longevity in your turbos and things like that, then rather spend a few extra bucks to get it. But that being said, the few extra bucks is substantial. So I think a genuine tail blow-off valve will retail in the region of about 4.5 to maybe 6,000, somewhere around there. Whereas this was, I think, 1/8 of the price of it. But is this really a complicated item? No, I don't think it's actually a complicated item, because a blow-off valve is quite a simple system in that it merely has a piston, and the piston is connected to a diaphragm, and the diaphragm then has a spring attached to it. The spring either comes in 8 or 10 psi's, depending on your application, how soft or how hard you want the spring itself. So for this particular application, we're not going balls to the wall in terms of the build itself, so this will work. The drawback that I don't like on this particular product is that this particular banjo here is actually plastic and not metal. I would have preferred this to have been a metal banjo. Yeah, and that just sits on top of the charge pipe like this here and connects to your intake manifold. It also has a place for a math bang. Whether this math bang is going to be efficient or not, I can't tell. And the reason being is that it's seated so high, and when the nozzle of the math sits in the charge pipe itself, I don't know if it will actually atomize correctly on the inside, or if it will spray against the walls and then drip down. I think that's consideration that I would need to test, but that I can resolve quite easily. The location of the math bang is actually quite nice. It sits before the TMAP sensor, so the math will come through here, flow down here, the air will push it through, it will atomize with the air, meaning combine with the air molecules. As it passes the TMAP sensor, it will tell the TMAP sensor that it has cooler air, and what that will allow you to do is to run better intake temps, and then the better intake temps will allow you to run maybe sufficiently more timing, or have consistent timing if so be. And with the downpipe itself, it came with some gaskets and some new hardware, which is pretty cool. I think that's also a big bonus. These gaskets are not like the OEM gaskets you get from BMW, but it will do the job. The OEM gaskets, for one, at BMW, it's around about 300 Rand for a single gasket. So for this coming in the kit with it alone, you're potentially saving 600 bucks off the cost itself. So that is absolutely brilliant. I think the next item, I'm going to bring the box over, and this is an item that I'm really excited about. Yeah, let's get the box over here. Yeah, so in this box itself is the intercooler, and if you can see, it's actually quite a thick intercooler, a thicker core of an intercooler. I think this is 5 inches width, something like that. Okay, I'm not going to take it out of the box, but basically setting in here is everything that's needed for the install. You do need to trim a little bit of the plastic to actually install this particular intercooler in, but it's quite a big difference compared to stock. So from a stock perspective, the core is enormously huge. When I mean enormously huge, the core on the stock N54's intercoolers is maybe about this big, and this core is about that big. There's other intercoolers out there on the market as well, like the step intercoolers, where they'll have a core and they'll have a piece that steps up. For me, that it is a nice idea to try and increase the volume of the intercoolers and try and increase everything else of like you know, the efficiencies of the intercooler and that there. But that for me doesn't really work, because the actual part that's exposed to the elements like the wind, particularly, is only that small grill at the bottom of the intercooler. So I would prefer rather a thicker core than actually going in terms of height for the particular intercooler. I know I didn't show you the cast tubings on the inside and the tanks on the sides for the intercooler itself. I think when the customer does bring the car through and we do the install, we'll go through a bit more detail in terms of what's happening right about there. Yeah, guys, so that's my estimate of 50 horses on a 335, 135, N54. The same thing can apply to any other model, whether it be an M3, M4, M5, M6s. The same principles do apply.